The share it with a friend deal, even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
Live your best morning with BOGO breakfast sandwiches only on the McDonald's app. Now buy one bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles and get a second one free. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one per day. Excludes $1, $2, $3 menu. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
From the radio studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelly's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelly.
I have so many things I want to discuss with you this hour. I hardly know where to start. Some fun things, some interesting things, some serious things. And then you've heard of Cocaine Bear. Wait till you hear about Cocaine Cat. Laurel, did you even hear about this story about the Cocaine Cat? Randy, can you turn on the green room?
No, I heard about the movie Meth Gator, but I don't know about a cocaine cat.
Yeah. The Cocaine Cats. We're gonna get to that coming up this hour. So don't go anywhere. And then, have you heard what Steven Spielberg has an interesting idea on UFOs, and we're gonna get into that coming up in a little bit as well. But I want to start with I'm gonna start with what I think is gonna be an incredibly unpopular opinion that I have. I hate when I share unpopular opinions because I know I'm going to get beaten up over this, but here is my unpopular opinion. I absolutely, for the totality of my life, have hated wrestling. The WWE type wrestling, I have hated that since I was a child, since back in the OG days of wrestling. I hate wrestling. It is dumb. It's scripted. I can't believe that they tried to pass it off as real in the early days until they started to get taxed differently as a sporting event rather than an entertainment event. They tax entertainment cheaper than they tax sports. So they finally came clean and said, yeah, it's scripted. We're entertainment. We're not sports. And that, to me, was the last nail in the coffin for me. I already hated wrestling as it was anyway. I just think it's so hokey and dumb. And there's a wrestling story now that the WWE is in talks with state gambling regulators in Colorado and Michigan to legalize betting on WWE matches. Legalize betting on WWE. That is nuts. That is absolutely crazy. And honestly, look, I don't have a dog in the hunt. I don't gamble, and I don't watch WWE. I don't care if they legalize gambling on WWE. I'm just telling you, if you're betting on WWE matches, a fool and his money are soon parted. And talk about the opportunity for corruption and fraud. You know, people could throw a match. They could throw it the other way. They could go off script on something like that. What do you guys think? Should gambling be allowed on WWE, on scripted wrestling matches? 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Now, here's the interesting part about this, as the WWE is trying to get state gambling regulators to legalize betting on high-profile matches. The WWE is working with the accounting firm Ernst & Young. Now, if Ernst & Young sounds familiar to you, it's because Ernst & Young is the accounting firm that handles the Oscars, right? They're the ones that make sure that the counting is right and the Academy Awards are all, fair and everything is legit with the Academy Awards. Well, so they're working with Ernst & Young to secure scripted match results in hopes that it'll convince regulators that there's no chance of the results leaking out to the public. Now, this was a surprise to me. TIL, today I learned that betting is allowed and legal on the Academy Awards. Did you guys know you could bet on the Academy Awards? It's already legal and available through some sports betting applications, including the market leaders FanDuel and DraftKings. Hang on, my phone is ringing. Why is the ringtone even on? WWE executives have cited the Oscars betting as a template to convince regulators that gambling on scripted matches is safe. I don't buy that it is safe, because even with the scripted match, unlike the Academy Awards, where you've got members of the Academy who are casting their votes, not knowing what the other members are voting on, not knowing how the other members are voting, whoever the script master is for the WWE, several people are going to be in on this, and they could change the script based upon the betting. I just think it's foolish beyond words that the WWE is seeking to have their matches open for legal gambling. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO, or hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app. My name is Joe Kelly. Coming up, we'll have details about the cocaine cat. Also, we're now told that Cinderella and Snow White are going to get the woke treatment. Yeah, we got problems with Cinderella and Snow White. We'll get details for you. Coming up, stay with us. I'm Joe Kelly on WDBO.
If you bet on WWE who's going to win or lose, you deserve to lose your money.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree with that. Also, we got a lot of open mics here as John Mina, Sheriff Mina, today came out against a Florida bill that will lower the age to buy a weapon from 21 to 18, and a lot of people are weighing in on that one with very much have a similar argument.
Hey, Joe, I think if you're old enough to die for your country, you should be old enough to purchase a weapon.
Yeah, a lot of that.
I think an individual who at 18 years old is able to be trained by our military to kill our adversaries should be able to buy a rifle.
And this?
I say 18-year-olds should be able to buy guns, but let's do it scientifically. I wonder how many 18-year-olds committed violent crimes of firearms back when they were able to purchase them versus now. How many 18-year-olds do violent crimes of firearms when they're not able to purchase them? I guarantee there's not much of a difference, because if you're going to do a violent crime, you're probably going to steal that firearm anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. If you're going to commit a crime, then it doesn't bother you to commit a crime of having a illegal gun.
Hey, Joe, all of these artificial age requirements we put in place on our citizens, I think are a joke. At the age of 18, we've determined that you are an adult. You can give your life for this great nation in the military, so therefore voting, drinking, purchasing a firearm, or anything else should be legal because you're an adult. Whether you act like one, that's up for discussion.
Yeah, we do have a mixed bag of when you are a legal adult and when you are not a legal adult. With some things, when you're 16, you're old enough to drive. When you're 18, you're old enough to vote. When you're 21, you're old enough to drink. And to the current case, old enough to buy a gun.
Don't think raising or lowering the gun age to 18 for long guns is a good idea. I just don't see it being a smart move.
By the way, there's been another train incident, this one out of West Virginia. A CSX freight train derailed in West Virginia after striking a rock slide, injuring 3 rail workers and spilling diesel into the river there. It'd be hard to blame that on the engineers if there's a rock slide there. That's kind of Mother Nature, right? That's an act of God if there's a rock slide there. Now let's talk about Cinderella and Snow White. So book publisher Penguin and one of their subsidiaries, Lady Bird Books, they have been reviewing book content through the use of so-called sensitivity readers. Oh, they're sensitive, and they're readers. They're sensitivity readers. And the sensitivity readers are examining stories for problematic content. And so part of their books include Snow White and Cinderella. I hope Disney's listening because they have an interest in Snow White and Cinderella as well. But they say that they are looking at having to rewrite some of those books because of today's woke concerns. An example, they say, is portraying old witches and other withered characters as evil. That can be seen as ageist. Ageist, not racist, ageist, because they associate old age with evil. So evidently that's problematic, and they've got to go back and rewrite books so that the wicked witch, the wicked old witch, can't be either wicked or old. She can be a witch maybe, but she can't be wicked and old. They also say that there is a lack of racial diversity among the book's protagonists, with too many white princesses with blonde hair and blue eyes. It's also, oh man, you guys are just going to flip when you hear the rest of this. It's also alleged that the presumption of gender pronouns in the books is an issue, that the princesses use the term man when they meet a prince for the first time. The explanation given is that the princess would not know the preferred pronouns before getting to know the prince, and therefore should be using gender-neutral language at first. Oh, for Pete's sake. The idea of love at first sight is also an issue. According to this report, a character such as Cinderella should not be falling in love without formally speaking to her counterpart, as that would be basing her feelings solely on physical attraction. As such, she is placing the privilege of beauty over character traits. This would also suggest to readers that those who are considered beautiful are entitled to happiness, and that represents only a certain demographic. You know, us beautiful people. It is reported that this refers to a white heterosexual man and woman as being those who are depicted as being worthy of romance. And this thing goes on and on and on, questioning, what is beauty? Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Can you believe that we're going to go back and rewrite Snow White? We're going to go back and rewrite Cinderella. This is so ridiculous. Entirely ridiculous. We had the same discussion last night about Song of the South and how things have changed over time. It's not enough. It's not enough that moving forward we have greater diversity, that moving forward we have greater sensitivity. But we actually have to go back in time and correct the so-called mistakes that were made back in time. That we got to go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years and fix all of the mistakes. And you can't see me on the radio, but I'm using the finger quotes, mistakes that were made in those stories, in those narratives. It is nauseating to me that we feel the need, that someone somewhere feels the need to employ sensitivity readers. Oh, how sensitive. Sensitivity readers to go back and look for problematic content. Not that anybody was complaining. They're doing that on their own. They're just going to go look for problematic content with their, sensitivity readers, y'all. They're so sensitive. Isn't that wonderful? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Use the open mic in the WDBO app. Coming up, you've heard of Cocaine Bear. Wait till you hear about Cocaine Cat. And it's not a house cat, by the way. It's a wild cat. We'll have details on the wild cat caught with cocaine in its system. We'll have that for you coming up. Stay right where you are. I'm Joe Kelly. Check out the podcast. It's Behind the News with Joe Kelly, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll continue straight ahead. Nobody go nowhere. To be clear, I am one of those people who believes that representation matters and diversity matters. I firmly believe that. And I believe that representation, and by that I mean, black people should be able to watch TV and see black characters. Gay people should be able to watch TV and see gay characters. Asian. Oh, the music was good. I was liking that. Asian people, Latinos. I mean, representation matters. It matters not just on TV, but I mean, dolls for children and stuff like that. There are some dolls that you can get now that come in a wheelchair. I think that kind of representation really matters. It is essential that we depict our society as it really is. And I recognize that back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, the 40s, the 30s, representation wasn't even a word that we had on our mind, not in that context at least. And diversity was something that just was never really given any serious consideration. And to the extent that we are, and I mean this in a good sense, we are slightly more woke as a society. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Because I believe diversity matters, and I believe that representation matters. But to go back into the past and to try to clean up the past with literature and film and everything else, with Disney banning Song of the South, never releasing that again. That saddens me. That's unfortunate. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
Joe, I just tuned in and I'm hearing you talk about this Snow White. Who is it again that's complaining about this? Because I don't know any kids in my family or in the neighborhood that are complaining.
A lot of in these cases, these are woke corporations that are doing it to themselves. I don't know that anybody is complaining about Snow White or Cinderella or proper pronoun use in those books, that were written, I don't know, in the 50s, the 40s. I don't know when Snow White was written. But no one is complaining. It's just these corporations taking it upon themselves to police themselves, to go back and look at, everything that they have published and see what they need to republish or what they have to change.
So, Mr. Kelly, I think it's more important that maybe we learn from history than change history.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, and certainly when it comes to literature, I mean, there are, look, when all these Civil War statues were taken down, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not a big fan of celebrating war losers. I'm not a big fan of placating people who think that that Southern pride equates to the rebel flag and that kind of a lifestyle. I just think that's all nonsense. But when it goes back to art, I mean, why would you change art? We're not talking about changing history. We're talking about changing art here, and I just don't get the relevance in doing that. And if we're going to go back and change art, I mean, what about the Mona Lisa? When are we going to get to the point where, the Mona Lisa's white? We cannot have the Mona Lisa being white. We've got to come up with a different version of the Mona Lisa. I just, going back and changing art to me is absolutely ludicrous. Let's go to Frank in Melbourne joining us at 844-580-WDBO. Hi, Frank. You're on WDBO.
Hey there. How you doing?
Very good.
Good show. So as far as representation, I mean, sure, there's no one reasonable would say there shouldn't be a show on TV that has gay people in it. If you're interested in that, watch it. If you're not interested in it, don't watch it. But what annoys me, though, is that, they're casting black people in roles that are clearly supposed to be white people. That's just kind of I mean, that's almost.
Can you give me
kind of ridiculous? It's just plain kind of ridiculous.
Can you give me an example?
You know, there's some show on cable that is about medieval princes and kingdoms and that kind of stuff, and they have a black princess on there, and it's just okay. I wish there were black princesses back there in medieval England, but guess what? There weren't, and so why would we? Just to put somebody in there so that it could be put in front of it. And then another thing on commercials, you see so often, the white guy in the commercial is the dumb character, and the white guy is always the dumb character, yes. Whichever chosen, not minority even, but whatever chosen person is the smart person in the commercial. It's never the white guy.
Yeah,
more
times than not, you are right.
It's annoying.
Yeah, you are right about that. More times than not, the stooge always ends up being the dad, the white guy. I think about the alarm company commercials. Whenever there's an alarm company commercial, the person breaking into the house is always a white guy. And they won't depict somebody of color in that because they don't want to be accused of racial stereotypes or racism. So I mean that there's certainly a lot of weirdness, a bizarreness that goes on when it comes to people taking great strides to not offend somebody. Heaven forbid somebody be offended by something like that. All right, coming up in a moment here. I know I've been teasing this the whole hour, but I've got the cocaine cat story. So stay with me. I got the cocaine cat story coming up next. And, of course, more of your phone calls and open mics, 844-580-WDBO, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Hang on, I'm just finishing this up. I'm currently writing up Laurel for taking the cocaine cat story. What the hell, man? Thought we were friends.
I'm so sorry.
Why would you do that to me?
I got in the middle of it and I was like, oh, how do I abort? I can't abort. I'm already going down.
So y'all just heard the cocaine cat story.
Tell it better. I feel like I didn't tell it.
Well, out of Cincinnati. So the Cincinnati Zoo is now home to a wild African serval. Am I saying that right? Serval?
I believe so.
The cat is native to Africa, but it was caught in the Oakley neighborhood in Cincinnati in late January. And at first people thought servals look a little bit like house cats, but they're bigger. But they're not as big as lions and tigers and that kind of stuff. But they're slightly bigger than house cats, and they look a bit like house cats. And there are some people who keep servals as pets, but you have to have an exotic pet license to be able to do that kind of stuff. But they're definitely wild animals, and this not wild enough, evidently. This wild serval was tested and had cocaine in its system. Toxicology came back. The animal was positive for narcotics in its system. They also did a DNA test, and it did come back as an illegal serval drug. It's unclear how the cat got the drugs. The cat did suffer a broken leg during capture, but otherwise the cat is going to be taken care of there at the zoo. The Cincinnati Zoo will care for the animal. What's next for the animal is not yet known. The animal's owner was cooperative and is not facing any charges. It is illegal to own that type of animal in Ohio. It's not illegal in Kentucky and Indiana. And I think it's legal in Florida. I may be mistaken about that. Randy is shaking his head yes. I think it is legal with a proper license. Now, they say they don't know how the cat got the cocaine. How in the hell would a serval... I mean, seriously, I know how the bear got the cocaine. How did the cat get the cocaine? Does people just leave cocaine lying around? Is that how that works? I just don't understand that at all. All right, we got more open mics here as we're talking about diversity on TV, representation on TV, and this as this book publishing company is going to go back and use sensitivity readers to rewrite these old classics like Snow White and Cinderella. And I fully acknowledge that representation matters. And that diversity matters. And going forward, we've got to do better. We've got to be better. But I don't like the idea of going back and changing art from the past because of insensitivities today. Now, we've got this guy that leaves me an open mic pretty regularly, and every single time, to the best of my recollection, it has been critical of me. This is the first time that I believe he's actually agreed with something that I have said.
I'm with you, Joe. I'm with you in this one. Representation matters. Representation matters and diversity matters when we have a nation that we all together fought the wars and fought for the same freedom. So, of course, we need diversity in every single show and everything that we do because all of us represent United States of America.
You got that right. Absolutely so. Thank you for that open mic. And look, if you're a white person and you're listening to this thinking, how does representation matter? How does diversity matter? You are surrounded by your whiteness that keeps you from recognizing that not everybody is white. I mean, yeah, we may all be Americans, but we're not all the same color. And I always think of a little black girl. And if a little black girl wants to get a doll that looks like her, that looks like her mom, that looks like her family, that's where representation matters. Would you want to deny, a little black child from having a black doll? See also Latino, Asian, etc., handicapped. There's children in wheelchairs. Wouldn't it be something for a child in a wheelchair to be able to get a doll or a plaything of some sort that features a wheelchair? I get excited when I see ad campaigns that feature somebody in a wheelchair or with crutches or with a prosthetic arm or something like that, because representation does matter. It truly, truly does.
So to the guy who is offended by black people being cast in roles that he thinks should have white people, I would like to ask him, did he ever watch any of those shows from back in the 40s, 30s, 50s, and them Bible shows, like Noah and Abraham and the pharaohs and all of them?
Oh, Cleopatra. Cleopatra was Liz Taylor. Cleopatra was in Egypt. Cleopatra was not a white woman. Cleopatra was a black woman.
The share it with a friend deal, even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
Live your best morning with BOGO breakfast sandwiches only on the McDonald's app. Now buy one bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles and get a second one free. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one per day. Excludes $1, $2, $3 menu. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.